I'm Lamont Morgan at La Potenza Cane Corso. Over 20 years experience. What we focus on is health and temperament. We're a family-based kennel. Most of our clients are military personnel with PTSD, families, police, fire. We strive in making the best quality Cane Corso that we possibly can.
Welcome to NWA Cane Corso's podcast, where we talk all things dogs.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show, NWA Cane Corso's podcast, where we talk all things dogs. We're back for another one. Glad to have everybody back. Our guest today is Mr. Brian Austin of Steadfast Staffordshire Bulls, right?
Yep, Staffordshire Bull Terriers.
All right. Glad to have you here. Brian, can you give just a brief introduction of yourself?
Sure. I'm Brian Austin. I'm in North Georgia. I've just been a dog lover from day one. My dad was an American Pit Bull Terrier guy, and so raised up, from a baby to that. Just living in Georgia, I'm passionate about the Staffordshire Bull Terriers, and I've been trying to kind of breed the, Staffordshire Bull Terrier, but I guess today you'd call it, the old school Staffordshire Bull Terriers, because a lot of them, aren't looking like they once did. So.
Right. Well, you know what? In my research, I was running across a bunch of different names, like AM Staff, and there's different names down through history. What's all that about?
Yeah, so there's a lot to it. People, there's debates and stuff. This is just from what I've gathered, my information. Obviously, I wasn't there at the time, but you could think of the Staffordshire Bull Terrier was actually the first pit bull. A lot of people, again, they'll argue or whatever, but the American Pit Bull Terrier came from, immigrants importing and basically imported from Ireland and England, right? And so England and Ireland had these, pit dogs, I guess, they just called them bull terriers, pit bull terriers, whatever. And they, the Kennel Club later, I think in like 1940, I don't know exactly when, 1943, 45, they, put it into the Kennel Club and came up with the Staffordshire Bull Terrier name. It's from Staffordshire, England, so they kind of ran off of that. But if you really look at the history, that's a lot of people don't understand. I have books like from the 1900s, right? And a lot of the game dogs back then, the American Pit Bull Terriers, they weren't called just American Pit Bull Terrier, right? They were like Brian Austin, for example, Austin's Bull Terriers. There were Staffordshire Bull Terriers. You follow me, like that. And if you really look, Colby Bull Terriers and stuff, and a lot of that gets confused and thrown in with the English Bull Terrier and all that. The English Bull Terrier was always a show breed. The Amstaff was created to be a show breed, right? It was a spinoff of the American Pit Bull Terrier. The American Kennel Club didn't want to be associated with the American Pit Bull Terrier because of the fighting reputation and everything like that. So they came up with originally Staffordshire Terrier, and then later they coined the phrase an American Staffordshire Terrier, which had always been a show dog. To be honest with you, now I've heard of people having working lines of that. I went from American Pit Bull Terriers as a young kid, seeing my father and stuff, to Amstaffs. I had some of those, and they were hard working, tough. This was in the 90s, so at least the line back then I thought were pretty, pretty gritty. At least the ones I had, a Ruffian bloodline, which was kind of, now looking back, they say that was a really good line, and obviously there's plenty of situations where some of even the game dogs had Amstaff mixed in, and they came out good dogs. But back on the Staffordshire Bull Terrier, they all came from, the first pit bulls came from England and Ireland, right? And so but the Staffordshire Bull Terrier, as far as the kennel club's concerned, it started around the 1940s and stuff. But again, I have friends in Ireland and stuff, and in England, and they tell me their grandparents had them way before then too, and they were just they were pit dogs, but they were the Staffordshire Bull Terrier, so they've been around forever. And again, people argue back and forth, but the Americans, like we do, we take them and then they change the name on them, and then obviously they put a lot of work into the American Pit Bull Terrier, and it's kind of changed hands. So another interesting fact is early on, the Staffordshire Bull Terriers wasn't founded by the AKC until now put me on the spot. It slipped my mind, but Steve Stone was the founder. But where I'm going with this is there were some imported from my bloodline from the 60s and 70s and stuff, and this was even before the AKC had registered them. Early 60s, even like 1959. Some of the game dog men like Al Brown, Pete Sparks, Joe Ordays, they were importing these Staffordshire Bull Terriers in to cross with their American Pit Bull Terriers, and they were getting them registered as pit bulls, because even then they didn't know what they were. They were and my dogs actually early on had pit bull pedigrees. Some of them even said like Irish pit bull on them and stuff. They were imported from there. And then once the Kennel Club was founded in the United States, a lot of them were dual registered then as Staffordshire Bull Terriers and pit bulls by the ADBA. So that's kind of a neat history that a lot of people don't realize. But my dogs can be traced back to the original, I say original, but from the 60s, where these dogmen had imported them over, and they were matching them. They were doing stuff like that with them. I mean, it was still legal back then in the U.S. And there's a famous dog that made the cover, Staffordshire Bull Terrier, that's bloodlines behind my dogs, that is on your friend and mine from Pete Sparks, his old dog magazine. And it's actually made the cover, and I think won some matches and stuff. So it's a neat history, and that's what's unique that I don't think people know. And I'd like to kind of tell more people about the American working lines has its own unique history, all from itself, because a lot of people, the Dublin Red lines, there's the working Irish lines and English lines and stuff. But there was a lot of dogmen that imported them early on. And like I said, the late 50s and 60s, that the bloodline's still pure and going on today through my dogs and stuff. So I know that's kind of a long history lesson, but it's kind of sums up. So the Staffordshire Bull Terrier, you could argue that it was the first, and then it branched off to, the American Pit Bull Terrier, and then the American Pit Bull Terrier kind of transitioned to the Amstaff, the American Staffordshire Terrier, which like I said, was kind of a show dog. And the Staffordshire Bull Terrier today obviously is a show dog. But again, what the people forget to realize is it started as a working breed. And in Ireland and England, early on, I mean, in Ireland, they had badger trials. So they were still, game testing these dogs, putting them down holes with badgers and stuff. And they would have to go head first and had to pull the badger out by the head. And they had these, trial days that they would have, and the dog couldn't make, a sound because, again, just game dogs in general, you're breeding against nature. So you want a dog that, what's two things? People scream when they're hurt, when they're, and they run away from danger. Well, a Staffordshire Bull Terrier shouldn't do that. They should go towards it. They should be more quiet. And those are just, I don't know, it's breeding against nature. So that's kind of a neat thing. But so there was a lot of these lines. And then let's be real. These guys were doing it in the 80s and 90s and 2000s where, they're still like us good old boys, they were still going hunting foxes and badger and stuff like that, but yeah. And so there's a lot of working lines, and that's where the standard, I think, slides, the original standard, and stop me if I'm going all over the place, but the original standard called for a taller dog, a bigger dog. It used to be, it used to be more, I guess, functional is the word, right? And now they changed the standard 2 or 3 different times. I think it was at least 2 more times after that. Smaller, and they kind of reworded it, took things out. At one time you could have rose ears, for example, or not rose ears, I'm sorry, pricked ears, right? So fully erect, underbite was okay. Again, they amended all that because, again, back in the day, all that mattered was toughness, gameness, functionality. And so with the show crowd kind of changed that all. And now, I personally don't think they even fit the standard. That they kind of, they take the standard and they kind of flip it to their benefits or what they feel. Right. But for me, I'm still, and obviously, a lot of the stuff they did back then is illegal and stuff. But for me, it's important to see if there is any ways to see if these dogs still have toughness and just mental fortitude. And I take them hog hunting, test them. Raccoons, if I have a small farm here, and groundhogs is a problem. Just, and again, that's not the biggest test in the world, but you'd be surprised at ones that won't even engage with that, So I try to select my breeding program based on a number of stuff like that, because again, it's important to me that these dogs are tough and functional and able to perform, where people in the show ring can argue all they want. I'm like, if it, come hunting with me, if it can function better than my dogs, then I'll be the first one standing in line wanting to breed to it. But a lot of times these dogs, are couch potatoes, and they go from the couch to the show ring,
Okay, so you don't really see a dual kind of dog, one that's kind of shows in work.
You don't, and that's been what I've done my whole life. I say my whole life. I've been doing it about 25 years. I started young. I'm breeding Staffordshire Bull Terriers, and so I guess when I started, I saw that. I was fortunate enough in Georgia, one of the bigger well-known breeders for the working Staffordshire Bull Terrier line was a man named Ken Hodgins, and he had intrepid staffs, and they were just functional. They were, I didn't even want to breed back then. I just would get a couple dogs from them. I have a twin brother. We do the dogs together, and we would just go visit them, see the dogs, have a Staffordshire Bull Terrier when we wanted. And, unfortunately, as we grew older, we were going to get a pup from him, and he had a tragedy where he had an aneurysm and died, But and that kind of got us looking at other breeders at the time, and they were just, I don't know the right word. They just weren't the same, and they weren't breeding for the same thing. And they were more concerned about, are you going to show the dog? Are you, the price tag and everything else? Mm-hmm. And at the time, I had a male that was fixed, and not fixed. I'm sorry, he wasn't fixed. And that was a big thing. They kept trying to, you need to get your male fixed. He's not good enough. And that's a whole story behind that. That was actually Intrepid Staff's last stud dog I got from him. From his son, he actually let me and my brother take him. We would always visit his father and stuff. And so he was like, hey, y'all were always here helping and whatever, I think my dad would want y'all to have him. And so we were fortunate to have him. And anyway, so that caused a lot of riff, just back then we were young and we're like, we're going to get in the show ring, and I want to, honor Ken by champing out this dog, in the show ring. And we did weight pull with him. I did all kind of stuff, man. He did frisbees, hunt hogs. Back then we didn't even put a vest on him. Like, I'm surprised he didn't kill him. We were kids. But we grew up in Florida. I'm originally from Florida. So that was just the thing, and you couldn't kill that dog. And he just beat himself up. Just a great dog. But back on the breeders, they didn't want, oh, I'll sell you one, but you can't breed it to your dog. And then they started rumors that, he had one testicle to all kind of crazy stuff, which, so we got a crash course and it was funny. Ken, I remember when he was alive, we would always tell him we're going to start showing, and he'd laugh and he'd say, it's a lot of politics, but whatever. Yeah. And so I could see him, smiling down with, but we champed him out, man. We took this dog that was, a year old and been on a chain his whole life and everything. Because again, these are old school, good old boys that they had dogs and whatever. And we champed him out, and he could still catch hogs. I mean, he could. To me, that was all around. He could do weight pull, frisbee, swim. That's another thing I like to. That's important to me. The dogs need to be able to swim and stuff, and so I got a lot of criteria and stuff that I have to. The dogs have to check all these boxes. And for me, I think that's the difference between this breed now and like the American Pit Bull Terrier, which a lot of them it's gameness and that's about it. For me, it's a lot more than that. They need to be good with kids, people. A lot of times that was kind of pushed off as long as you had a good worker, if that makes sense. So
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What does Terrier? What are the temperament and the characteristics? I mean, what are you looking for as far as his personality, his traits, and things like that?
So I like a bold and confident, Staffordshire Bull Terrier. Sometimes they can be handler sensitive, and I know because I've talked to a lot of people that do like protection work and stuff, and I tell them this breed's not for that, But so they can be, handler sensitive, which, a real dog man can tell the difference. Like, even with game dogs, you can, some people think of it as shyness. It's not. It's more. They're very human submissive, if that makes sense. Like, and I like that in them. Where I have some, that, like I said, is the boldest, confident, toughest, tenacious. A dog in my yard, and he'll take down hogs or whatever. But he's so gentle with my kids and stuff. Just kind of softens up and will be so, come running 100 miles an hour and then just soften up and come sliding on the side to my kids on his belly and let them love on them and stuff. And I think that's a good, I like to see that. I like a dog that's confident, not too cocky. And again, you can get variety from them, but at least for me, that's what I like. I don't want, there's so much now, and I think it's just people don't know what they're talking about. Right. They think a dog just barking, trying to get to another dog. Again, go back to these badger trials. These dogs weren't just sitting there. They weren't supposed to make a noise, and a lot of game dogs won't say nothing. They'll walk up next to a dog and grab it, and it's kind of like that with hog hunting and stuff too. I've noticed my dogs they go, and it's funny. I've taken, friends with me that's never been around a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, and they'll be like, this dog ain't going to do nothing, and sure enough, it surprises them every time. It turns it on. And I like to see that too, but again, yeah, they just got to have, a big heart, and just be tough, these dogs were founded from like chain makers, man. They were always the middle class, right? And so I think, again, these breeders are forgetting where they came from. And to me, these men, they were coal mines and they were tough, and they made chains, and it was hot. And even in the US, man, they were farmers that got these dogs in the 60s and 50s and stuff. And just, even they worked at chicken plants, I mean, they did all this stuff where they were just hardworking individuals, and their dogs were the same as them. And that's what I'm trying to do. And that's what I've been doing. I want a dog as tough as me. And I know I'm not as tough as the men back then, but I feel like, that's the problem with any kind of these breeders. If they're not, if they're not trying to breed tough game dogs, how can you if they're curs? You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but it's like it's just kind of, that's how I am, and that's how I try to hold the bar, standard up for my dogs, individually. I think they should be tough. They should be gritty. They should not back down from a challenge, and that's something that I look for.
What size is a typical Staffordshire?
So it varies, and this is the problem I have too. A lot of people, again, they're misinformed. a breed is a bloodline. It's a lineage, right? So too many times I see on some of these groups where they're like the written standard now, they've changed it, they revised it like 3 times, it is like 14 and a half to 16 inches. Well, if a dog is 16 and a half inches, then suddenly it's, I see this. That doesn't look like a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. Well, it does if you look up the original breed, but again, that's just their ignorance. But just to answer your question, they can vary. I mean, I've had them as small as 23 pounds, and I've seen them as big as 50 pounds. But generally, I would say about, females, typically, you could go 25 pounds to 35 pounds. And then a male could be, 32 pounds, 33 pounds to, maybe 43 pounds, 45 pounds, just depends. But
Right.
I try to shoot for something more of, I want my females around 28 to 33 pounds maybe. And my males about 35 to maybe 40 pounds. If I can keep them in that range, that seems to be the best for actually working and functionality. And they can still grab a hog and not get beat up too bad, like say a Patterdale or something like that. And it's still a dog, that you can work with and stuff, and still small enough it can still get in areas, get in holes and stuff like that as well, get rats or whatever at the barn and stuff like that. So I shoot for that if I can help it. And as far as height, again, they vary. You can get from 14 and a half inches to 16 and a half inches. That's kind of what I go for. I've seen, some could get up to maybe 17. A lot of the old school guys like them, 17, 18, 19 inches. But what I found, again, a lot of times if you put a measuring tape on them and measure them correctly, they don't know what they're doing. I'm a real stickler on that, and I have friends that do like fly ball competitions. And so the weighing, height is the name of the game. So they'll come over and bring their wickets, they call it, and measure my dogs for me just to see. I don't really care. But and they'll tell me, it might look taller than it is, but it's not, when you really put the measuring tape on it. And if you know what you're doing, the dog's not standing on its tippy toes or wiggling or moving around and stuff.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
So you've been doing this a while, and you've been fortunate enough. Your dad was involved in it. At coming up, did you find yourself kind of maybe seeing that you were a level ahead of a lot of people, being that you was kind of born and bred up into dogs?
Yeah, I do. I didn't at first until, probably the last 10 years, because, a lot of people didn't take me serious either, but I saw a lot, like, so for example, I had a Bull Terrier and again, we were kids in Florida, right? So I think I was 10 or 9. My dad's guy he worked with game bred pit bulls. And I would never forget, my dad's like, y'all boys want a pit, go get a pup. And we're like, yeah, so we went, he had a couple litters and we got to pick out. And even at a young age, my brothers, we had a plan. You get a female from this litter and I'm gonna get a male from that litter, and we did.
Mm-hmm.
But, and so I remember one time we went to Doty's. It was like a tractor supply store or whatever, a grain store in Florida back in the day. And they sold puppies there. And we got a Bull Terrier, a white Bull Terrier. I always loved, Spuds McKenzie and all that stuff back in the day, but anyways, this dog was deaf. So it was terrible to work with until it got older and we realized it was deaf and I had problems there. So I seen that at like a young age, I don't know, it was probably 8 or so, and so we got rid of that dog. And then what else? I had a Cocker Spaniel. We had bird dogs back in the day, and we had a couple litters. And again, I was breeding dogs at 8 years old or 9 years old or whatever, and they were having pups. And I could tell you some crazy, so the mama was bad, so she was killing the puppies and stuff. So I'm like, man, that's crazy, and stuff.
Why was she doing that?
What's that?
Why was she doing that?
She was just genetics, just a bad mother, I assume. Now, like my dogs now, man, they're great mothers. It's just she just was a bad mom, and And so like I call that stuff, I just find it a home. If I get a dog that's a bad mama, I don't want nothing to do with it. That's important for me too. They got to be able to raise the pups. And so a lot of stuff like that. But yeah, and then I had an AM staff, one of my best AM staffs named Brutus. He was a great dog, but he had it. And so my brother and I, we worked in an animal hospital, from middle school on up into high school. We had the bus drop us off there. We volunteered for like a year before they said, we feel sorry for you kids. Like you're not getting paid. So then they put us on the payroll, $5 an hour or something. And we're like, yeah, the school bus would drop us off there. We would volunteer all day. And
you was raised in a really country town, right?
Right. Yes. Okay. Yeah. And so, we're like, all right, we just love the animals and stuff. But so our AM staff, so we're working at the animal hospital now. He had an enlarged heart, and we were just working him one day. I mean, he loved to work, and again, hey, we learned, we were kids and stuff. He would work hide or whatever, and he would get really worked up, even himself. We'd throw the ball, and he'd just run back and forth. We heard a scream, and he just fell over dead. I assume his heart. We tried CPR, and we took him immediately to the animal hospital, called the vet, a veterinarian to meet us there, and he was gone. Nothing we could do about it. So I saw that too. I'm like, man, just poor genetics, poor breeding. So helping, and I was scared of white dogs forever because I had the assumption that if it was a white dog, it had hearing problems because of the Bull Terrier. So I recently got some white pups, from years of breeding and stuff. And I'm like, so worried, I'm over there, from that, as soon as their ears open up, like, are they looking over here, and all this stuff, and doing hearing tests, having the vets do it and stuff. And then there's genetic testing you can do for this as well. But
right.
Yeah. So I learned really fast and crash course. And then the first 3 Staffordshire Bull Terrier litters I had didn't make it. I mean, I don't know why I didn't quit then. I had to have C-sections, had stud feet, I'm paying for a stud feet, had a C-section, almost lost the bitch too. And so it was just tragic. And so I got her fixed, and I had high standards early on, me and my brother, to where if they couldn't welt naturally, I got them out of my program. And so that happened a couple times before I even got a successful litter. And then when I was getting successful litters, it was maybe 2 pups, 3 pups, 4 pups, so we kept a couple and gave some to family. And then, we might sell one, if that, so for years I was kind of doing that. And then if it wasn't any good, if it didn't check all the boxes, like I told you, health wise or whatever, I just kept it, didn't breed to it. That happened a lot early on. Now I'll thank God, there's benefits to the Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. Now there's other people that, and the way I see it is, if you can take better care of the dog or as good or better than I can, then I don't mind offering up a dog like that I'm not going to use in my breeding program. So I'll find somebody to rehome that dog with. Now, if any kind of human aggression, it gets put down. I know people, but I'm just the type, I want to be able to sleep at night if I sell you a pup and no, and I have kids too. Yeah. And this breed, people can say what they want, these working dogs, and they like that stuff. But if you ever seen one of these dogs really work, and you ever, imagine a kid or a person or something, I mean, these dogs are no joke. And so that's the most important for me. It's just temperament and being able, with kids and people in general. They need to worship, love kids, and then, there's, like I said, there's a lot of a checklist I like to make sure that they're qualified for before I use them in my breeding program.
Right. So you've been breeding a long time. Would you consider you have your own bloodline?
I think I would now. I mean, I'm trying to think. I probably got. Now I should look. I mean, I would guess 8 generations now. And then even that, and what's unique, and I tell people this too, and I'm proud of it. Even the ones before that I got, when I was, I mean, shoot, I was 16 visiting 10 in Macon, Georgia. I was seeing these grandparents and great grandparents of these dogs before I even had them, if that makes sense. And to me, that's important. And these breeders today, you import a dog and people, or they use semen from a dog. It's a great dog. It's this, it's that. I ask questions. What does the dog eat? I don't know. What does it do? Did it come up and roll on its back? Did it knock your legs out from underneath you? Did it jump on you? Oh, I don't know. I've never seen it, and then I'll ask, how long how's the dog been alive? A lot of times too, these famous stud dogs, oh, he passed away at 9 or 10. And it's like, lived on the couch its whole life in a crate, in a show ring, real tough life. And it only lived 10 years. That ain't no, it's the best stud in the world. That's not that's not what I look for. Floyd, my old dog I got from Ken, he was like 16 and a half or something. And he was beat to heck. He didn't have a tooth in his mouth. He wore himself out. He was just a hard keeper. He would get out of cages, eat out. He was just, it's funny. People tell me, I bet, oh, he was the best dog you ever had. He was, but I tell them, no, he wasn't. I hated that dog. He was a pain in my butt. But I smile every time I think of him. I love that dog. But he wasn't. If you had him, you would say, I hate this dog. You know what I mean? He pushed my buttons a few times. I could tell you stories. Where I'm like, hey, deal with it. And he dealt with the situation, took care of it. I'm like, man, this is a tough dog. He actually early on, before I even got him, and people take this the wrong way, whatever, but it was a kennel accident, and he killed a pit bull. And there's not many, Staffordshire Bull Terriers that can do that, especially when he was on the chain. He was just tough, man. He was just tough, and no quit in him, and lovable, man. Just love people, just love puppies. I like to see that too. A dog that's not a bully, man. I want him, we've had Chihuahuas growing up and stuff. My brother, we had a lady that worked at the animal hospital that bred them and got our mom one, and they'd come and play, and Chihuahua, ruled the roost, just control the staff, get them off the couch or whatever. And I like that. But if something challenges it, these staffs, they're just not going to back down, whether that's a boar, a 150-pound boar, or, a big old pit bull or something like that. They're just, right. But if it's a small puppy, roughhousing, trying to bite them or whatever, I want to see that they know the difference. They're intelligent. Same with kids and stuff. They can be sweeter. I have some that will knock my feet out from underneath me. But if my 2-year-old son comes out, I'm like, what's going on? He's over there on his back, letting them rub on him and love on him and stuff. I'm like, he just took my legs out from underneath me a minute ago for me to throw the ball for him. But, that's just intelligence. That's just years of proper breeding. And that's what I tell people as well, man. It's like, when I got these dogs, they were from good old boys in the South, and and they kept them on chains, and they might have fed them the cheapest bag of dog food they had, but they did me a service, man. They did everybody a service. That if they couldn't live in the 100, hot, they call it hot Atlanta for a reason. If they couldn't live in this heat, man, outside, they didn't make it. And if they couldn't whelp a litter of pups, they didn't make it. Were gotten rid of. And if they couldn't stand the cold, they got rid of. So they kind of did me a favor and weeded out the bad stuff. And I hear a lot of these guys, man, and some of them, that you talk to, raw. Raw food. I tell everybody, if you can afford it, if you can do it, that's great. I'm a breeder, okay, first and foremost. If I'm a breeder, I should breed a dog that is able to survive off kibble, something minimal, it should have skin problems. If your dog got skin problems, then you're a bad breeder. I mean, you talk about health tests, you talk about this and that, hey, if your dog's, I don't care if you want to sell puppies and you get and I hear this a lot. Oh, my dog's 264, genetically free. But if you feed it kibble, it's bald and you need, steroid shots every month or something. That's health, man. That's proper selection. And I don't want it in my line. And I see Staffordshire Bull Terriers, I seen early on, there were some that had skin issues. I got rid of it. And the whole big debate, color, a lot of people say blue. I haven't owned many blue dogs, but I've seen a lot of other color ones, and I've seen a lot with skin problems, and they weren't blue. Now, I have recently produce some blue just pop up from my genetics. And I was scared at first. I don't have no skin problems with them. So I think just selective breeding to the ones that had better immune system, let's just say that. Because what I'm trying to do is I want to breed a dog, a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, that is genetically perfect for me, if that makes sense. So I can hand it over to somebody, and if you want to take it to the next level, then you feed it raw. You know, obviously that's going to be better. I'm not saying it's not, you know, but I need to be able to know if I feed it whatever kibble, if its skin falls or its coat blows out, right, and everything else, or it has all these rashes and sores and stuff on it, that, you know, who am I? I'm going to come check up on you. I care more about the dog's well-being. I'm not going to hold your hand and make sure, you know, Joe, you feeding it raw, you doing this, you doing that, you know. No, you should be able to feed it a quality dog food. Or if you're going to take it, you know, your animals even more and feed it raw, then that's, you know, hey, that's awesome.
And you're exactly right, because when I send my pups home, even though I feed raw, I got the hookup on raw.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I got a mean hookup on raw. They eating animals, I'm telling you.
That's awesome.
And
I would love to do that, but for me, I've seen too many problems in my breed, if that makes sense. Right, and then and I felt like I've spent 25 years breeding it out, and so it's important for me to check them with that. Now, obviously, if they're, you know, like I said, if I'm going to do competition, maybe I don't know. I'm a kibble. You know, was raised up with veterinarians, right? So, you know, they preached to me day one. They're like, son, unless you're a nutritionist, scientist, you know, these manufacturing companies have it down. Like, you know, they have doctors, they have scientists here. You know, they have all this stuff in the nutrition and stuff. And that's my biggest thing too. And you know it as well. You got to, and so, I used to be a personal trainer and stuff. I know enough about nutrition to know some of these people, they don't know what they're doing. And it can be said on training and everything else, you know, but they're just chicken every single day. That ain't healthy. That's not enough vitamins. That's not, you know, you got to have all that stuff. So unless you're having a variety and you know how to make a complete balanced diet for them, then you should, or mix some with kibble or whatever. But that's a whole nother topic. But that's, you know, to me, that's important. And then same with trainability. Like, I'm sorry. Yeah, man. The best trainer in the world can get a dog from a humane society, right? And train it to do a lot of things. He should be able to train it to do anything. But I want a dog that a kid can get and go ratting with. Let's just use that, right? Or let on some hogs, you know, and catch. And it's genetic. It wasn't trained. It takes literally. It's just instinct, you know. And that's what I'm breeding for. That's what I'm trying to breed for. And again, I think too many of these, they're not, I don't even call them breeders. They're, you know, they're good trainers. They're trainers that are having puppies and they're training their dogs and putting them in the right people's hands. And that's a great thing. But to me, I want somebody that when I do put them in a trainer's hand, they take it to another level, you know. And then same with when they feed, you know, that extra whatever, it's like another level. And it just amazes me to see what they can do with dogs that I've bred and produced and stuff. But as a breeder, like I said, it starts here. I want to see what they do on minimalist stuff. And then, hey, anything else is just going to be, it has to be better, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think trainers should do their job. But I do understand if there are trainers that if they can get a dog, they just that good, they're going to take them to another level. But I still think it's a responsibility of the breeder to do your damn job.
Oh, absolutely. Well, like so, for example, when I have a litter of pups, you know, because I mean, I think a lot of it is genetics too. I'm a big believer in that. Like some thunderstorms, dogs being scared of that kind of stuff. But now, and again, and a lot of people don't realize this either. But I mean, I'm playing, you know, sounds of thunder and storms and stuff. As soon as their ears open up, right? I want them to hear that when they're nursing on the mama. So and fireworks, and I'll play all kind of stuff, you know, on my phone or whatever, and sit next to the whelping box, so they get used to it. To where, and then when they do get out, you know, in the yard, I'll put them and I'll mow. And again, I'm not trying to scare them. I'm not trying to, you know, I'll take a leaf blower, but I'm not blowing it on them. But I'm just doing stuff, exposing them to stuff. And to me, I think that just ensures and makes a better dog. I'm not trying to cover up anything. I'm just trying to just expose them to other things. Coming in the barn, you'd be surprised just, in and out of something different. You got rubber mats, you got, concrete, you got, from grass to just different textures and stuff. So I kind of raise them up like that. And, I don't know if it does anything or not, but it's important for me. And that's just little things like that, that is different from your average breeder to somebody that, knows and just kind of is thinking ahead. You know what I'm saying? At least for me.
Yeah, I see sometimes like it's not a real big focus on, the functionality. When some breeders hit a certain level, man, throw this shit together. I'm trying to
Right? Yeah.
I'm trying to make this sale,
Yeah.
and
No, you're right. And that's another thing. I'm one of those, a lot of people tell you anything to sell you a pup. I'm actually I'm telling you, I don't know, and then they, thank God they call me back and say, you're crazy, man. This is the baddest dog I've ever had, and so I'm like, good, but I rather, than think, look, and two, I tell people, you get some people call me up and I want this, I want it busting 150-pound hogs. I want it, the baddest dog ever. I want it, I want it exactly this weight and exactly this height and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, man, and it's a pup. And they don't want an older dog. I tell them, you need to get an older dog if you want everything to check your boxes. And that ain't going to be cheap if you got one that already does all that. I'm selling you a prospect, okay? This is what I can tell you what the parents were, their parents were. And there's again, they're going to lie to you if they tell you they're getting 100% badass dogs from every litter. I like to think they all are. And I'm not saying I think there is a pup for everybody in a litter. And I've done it long enough to know. But if you want a weight pull dog, and there's one just maybe more stubborn, and not stubborn even, just more reactor. You know what I'm saying? Just bolts, there's different temperaments. I'm not a trainer, so I can tell you when I got one or not, and that one's going to be better for this X, Y, and Z, right? And so you can find the diversity in a litter, but as far as, these people that are calling me up expecting so much, and again, it's a prospect, and it's what you got to put the work in too. I had a guy the other day, your dogs don't kill your chickens, right? And I'm like, and they're catching coons and stuff, raccoons, and fighting off, anything that comes in near your chickens. I'm like, yeah, but that wasn't trained. I mean, that was trained. You know what I mean? If I have a pup and have them let them mess with the chickens from day one, I had one before do that, and I thought it was, cute, a little 6-week-old puppy chasing the chicken. Day later, it has a chicken in its mouth. You know what I mean? Like, and bad mistake. I should have stopped it then. But again, it's your job. It's your responsibility. Don't call me up and say, this dog's killing my chickens, or that's the trainers, or they, I put this dog on a raccoon. Oh, I'm like, 6 months old, I'm like, dude, that's a pup, Again, that's where genetics plays. You let the dog mature, let it be a puppy. Then, again, and then they got all these, it's ridiculous. And they're the ones that don't want to pay nothing, and which, again, I can get a whole other thing where some people, they just want a dog. They just love it no matter what, which, again, and my dogs are tough and stuff. But again, don't come to me, threatening me if the dog ain't this, and this, and this. Well, then go somewhere else. I'm not going to lie to you or promise you the world. I'm not that kind of breeder. I like to think it's going to be this, but even me, if I get one that's not, then I'm not complaining. I'm not, I'm just, not breeding it. It's as simple as that, and trying again. That's just part of breeding.
What's your breeding philosophy? Where are you at now? You mostly just line breed with what you got? And
yes, I've been fortunate enough for a long time now. I haven't had to add new blood. I have gotten one bitch brought in that that goes back to some of my old stuff, and she actually, it's more of a line breeding, if that makes sense. So it's been really good. It's been clicking. I'm try to keep my yard. And again, I have family. I have my brother. I have my dogs, they have theirs too. I have a selection I can use. So, and I'm trying to run 3 lines now, if that kind of makes sense. Like, I know it works. So if you want one for sporting or for, and again, I don't breed for the public really either. I mean, I do, like, it's not like that. Like, I'm breeding Staffordshire Bull Terriers the way I want. Like, that's what I do. Okay.
Right.
I don't, and again, people think it's Walmart or something. Like, I mean, or they call me up and they're like, what you got for 27 or even next year? And I'm like, man, I don't put my litter, like, it's not about making money. It ain't about, I'm looking at the dog. I'm evaluating the dog every time I work the dog, every time the dog steps a foot out in the yard. I'm seeing if it's going for the biggest hog or if it's going for the piglets. I'm seeing if it's, how does it recover when it gets hit and it's been running all day. I want to see after we get back from a hunt, if the next day when they're dragging themselves out of the doghouse stiff and sore, if I say load up, they know what that means. And if they're jumping in the back of the truck, or if they're staying in the yard saying, I don't want no more of this. There's so much that I look for. And so, I agree when I'm going to keep something from it, which my wife hates that part, but I try to tell her it's a bloodline, it's,
Right.
I mean, I try to, so and that's the other thing too, these breeders out there, man, I'm like, hey, they tell me about this dog, this litter so good. I said, then why ain't they keeping something from it? If I keep something from it, it's because, I mean, if I'm keeping something from it, it's a good litter, or at least I like to think so. And people think, oh, you're probably keeping the best one. It ain't like that. I can't keep them all. And then I'm looking at different things. Maybe I got a dog that's too driving, maybe I got a dog that, too hyper. And so I might be looking for something that's going to calm it down a little out of this litter. And you want something that's a little bit more, or, people don't understand that either. It's, you tell me what you want. And again, some people give me 50-page report of what they want. I'm like, I don't think, I don't think I can do all that, but I get it. I appreciate that. But still, I can give you an idea. And again, it's a prospect, but yeah. So for me, it's more about, so what I've done is I've kind of broken my lines to like 3, I guess. I have like more, I keep them pure, bloodlines, I guess, what I consider my old stuff. And then I have some of my American working Irish lines, and then I have some of my, I have like 3 that I'm kind of going with now, if that makes sense. They're a little bit different variety, but I notice when I do crosses. So if you want like a really good sporting dog, sometimes if I'll do a cross, I get that more of that vigor, maybe, I don't like to use that a lot because I think it's misused. Because I do inbreed and line breed a lot. Like that's what I do right now. That's it.
Right.
But you'd be surprised what you can do with that. I see, you lose vigor and stuff. Oh, you got to inbreed the heck out of a dog, or got poor genetics. Yeah. And that's a whole nother topic, the inbreed thing. Because some bloodlines you can inbreed a lot more than others. And again, it's all different, and you got to know what you're doing. And I look at it as, I don't know, you got a big old barrel of apples and you throw a cherry in there, right? Maybe that's a genetic that you don't want in there. Maybe that's bad hips, right? Well, if you keep throwing more cherries in there, you're going to have more of that. But if you're inbreeding, good hip, right? I mean, let's just use this for example. And I don't know if it works this way. I'm just, and so you're inbreeding. As you're inbreeding, you're throwing out apples. You're getting to the bottom because the genes are going, right? So where you're gonna maybe hit that. If you hit it, you just gotta get rid of it. Call that pup, find it, don't breed it, right? So don't breed that one. Maybe you bred it out then, and you keep doing that. So in theory, if you inbreed properly, you should only keep clean genes. The problem is when people are inbreeding, they flush out all that bad crap, so they start getting problems, they start getting issues. And they outcross thinking, oh, that fixed it. It didn't. What it did was it just covered it up. You threw in more apples. Well, obviously you can't find that cherry now.
That's the number one thing I see in dogs with the cross. It's more running from shit. Like I want to just carry it in the back. I'm like, how are you going to ever fix it
Yeah.
if you don't bring it out and select the ones who are worthy to be bred. But it's a lot of just suppress it,
Yeah.
run. Yeah, I
Well,
hardly ever see any guys who have pure lines. To be
yeah, no,
honest.
you're right. But mine's pretty tight. I mean, I say that, I don't know. People argue. I mean, I have dogs, for coefficiency wise, and this is just 10 generation pedigrees. They're 33%. My averages are about 20, 25, I try to keep it. I mean, it just depends, it depends on what you want, because the tighter you go, you're going to have some quirky stuff. And that's when you gotta be a breeder first. You gotta select, it's all about selection. If it don't work, get rid of it. Don't keep nothing. Maybe even repeat that litter again until you find the pup that has what you want, that dog that has what you want. And that's the problem. Too many people, they got too much time and money invested, or whatever reason they fall in love with it, and they just got to breed to it, and they look past it. You can't be kennel blind, even on your own stuff. I just, and I'm not, I tell you, I breed in, and I'm always looking for something new, but they're high, like cleft palates. I see this as a common thing for so many people right out there and stuff. Like, it's just a norm, or they have all these defects, health issues, skin problems, and they just feed raw, this, that. I have worked on so much to keep all that crap out of my bloodline. I feel like I've line bred enough to where maybe it's not in there, maybe it is, but I hadn't had to deal with it yet. So that is important to me. So when I even see a dog that maybe checks all the boxes, I'm asking, is the parents, to the grandparents? Because what if I breed that dog and then suddenly its father, or its mother, or its grandmother had this issue, and it pops up in my stuff? Now I just destroyed all the hard line breeding and work that I've done, man. It scares me to death. So that's super. So now I'm like, I know what I got here. Let me keep playing with it, and again, and I've had some where, oh, what's funny is I've had some weird crap pop up when I do out crosses. So again, that's just bull crap. And I've inbred, mother to son and father to daughter and stuff like that. And I've had big litters. They say that too. Oh, I've heard this, and I'm sure you have too. That Embark says that it decreases the size of your litter or some crap like that. I don't know. I do it from experience. I have never seen that. I've actually, some of my inbred litters have way more puppies than I normally have. Now, I'm sure it's just coincidence, but again, it's not doing with this. Oh, you'll have less amount and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe I didn't inbreed enough, but I like to think my line's tighter than most Staffordshire Bull Terrier lines. I mean, most of them are like 1%, 3%, maybe 8%. Some show lines maybe 16%, but I'm getting up to 30. Some of the dogs I've used were like 48, 49%, some of the old Dynamite lines and stuff, man. They were tight and they were line bred. I mean, without going crazy in the pedigrees and stuff, but it was proper selection, and that's all it was. I spoke to some of the breeders, and they said, every dog in the litter had a skin problem except for this one, and I kept it. I thought I was going to lose that bloodline, and it was just that one. And what people don't get either, and I spoke to these old timers, and they're like, you see that litter, and you see maybe there are 2 or 3 offspring off them that were perfect. So that was after 4 breedings, 4 litters. And the first one, all of them got, went because they weren't good enough. Second one, all of them. Third one, there was 1 good one in it. The fourth one, there was 1 good one in it. So when you really, because then you're like, oh, that breeding was the best ever. Well, again, it was. They finally hit what they wanted, but they weren't kennel blind. They waited until they got the right one. And sometimes it'll be the first litter, but it might not. So you just got to be patient and know when to. I got some dogs I love, man, and some weird crap came out, and I just didn't feel, either they died too early, and I worried about intestinal, like, why are their intestines going and stuff? I don't know. There's so much, and who knows, right? But whatever, I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not risking my whole, now it's 25 years for something to change, so. So I try to keep it pure, and then I'm playing around with another line, and then I say it's all mine, I guess you could say, but I'm just trying to keep it to where if I need to add a little bit more blood, to add whatever it is, a certain, maybe a little more high strung or a little more, I don't know, more leg, or there's so much, that variety, some variety, not a lot, but
Right,
I don't
right.
know which direction I want to go, because
Yeah.
as a breeder, people think you take two of the same dogs and just breed them, which if I want that temperament, let's just say temperament, yeah, I might get that. But there's a spectrum, and you're gonna go down, and it's like this. So you're trying to add cold water, add warm water. You're trying to keep it in the middle when you're breeding. And again, now that it depends obviously on what you're breeding for, what genetics, but in general, that's kind of how I look at it. A lot of my
Right.
breedings.
Yeah, because I mean, when you think about it, especially when you got guys who maybe 10 years in, why are you still having skin issues in your lines? That stuff should have
Yeah.
been weaved
Well,
out.
the norm is, it's all of them have it, or like I said, a lot of I know a breeder around here that was like that. Like, made you sign a contract, you feed raw, and I know why, because I had some of the blood and it had skin problems.
Oh,
You
that's
know?
why. Okay, okay.
Yeah, and so and that's why, because when the people start calling them up and saying they have their hair's falling out, they can say, well, you voided the contract or whatnot. That's
Right.
just ridiculous to me. Fix it. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know. I get it, but I don't like.
That's a very good point, because before I fed raw, I fed kibble, and one thing I always do when I have my pups, I send them home on kibble. I don't convert
Yeah,
people to raw, because it's not fair. It's your dog, and
yeah,
and it's gonna be what they have access to. Everybody's not gonna feed that shit.
yeah. Well, so
Yeah.
for example, I had a friend that got a dog from a buddy that we both know, and he was feeding it raw from a pup, and the transporter delivered it, and it's a 5-day trip from California to here. I mean, it's a drive, and when you're making stops, so but it was going somewhere to him. Anyways, the dog wouldn't eat kibble, so this transporter was having to mess with raw food as it's driving. That's a pain in the butt. And this
Yeah.
dog would not, like he said, it was not. So she had to stop and get hamburger meat or something, because he just assumed it would, switch back to kibble or canned food or anything like that. It wasn't eating nothing. It was just starving itself because it wanted raw, and stressed and everything else. Man, that can't be good. So no, that's smart. But let's see, these old timers and stuff, people laugh stuff. I mean, they're feeding old Roy and stuff, man. And funny thing is they're selecting and calling, dogs that have skin issues. I think any dog would probably have skin issues on that stuff. But they did me a big favor, man, solid, because they're selecting they had the perfect immune system if they were thriving off this stuff, But a lot of old dog, man, I mean, Floyd Boudreaux talks about some of the old dogs he had that were winners and stuff that he just fed kibble. People didn't believe him, and he conditioned them, and that's just superior genetics. And that's, I think, where I'm different than everybody else. I started with American Pit Bull Terrier. My standards, that's how I breed. That's how I hold my standard to. If it's dog, people aggressive, it's gone. If it's, if it can't survive off the minimal, it's middle class people. It needs to be a tough. I mean, it's a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, especially my breed. It needs to be tough. At one time, it was just fed table scraps, like whatever, anything, and it didn't have problems. It was hardy. That should be added to the standard. It needs to be hardy. It needs to be tough, physically, and all that, man. Just the health.
You're right. I was talking to my buddy's schoolboy, and I ain't gonna hold you up much longer, because I know we
Oh
got.
no, you're good. I love Schoolboy, man. I love listening to his stuff.
Oh man, he's the best.
Yeah.
He said it's a renaissance starting to happen with dogs, to where
Huh.
people, you know, these dogs need to go back to where they actually used to prove themselves
Oh
as
yeah.
bred for.
Yeah. So, and I don't know how much truth is to this, but that I've heard different stories and read, and as I've gotten older, I take everything with a grain of salt, because just because it's in a book, just like on the internet, whatever. But they, I mean, and I believe it. The guys, the way they did it back in the day, they would breed diversity, right, on the farm. So they would have a dog, Staffordshire Bull Terrier, let's just say that, and they might breed it to one. So they got all different sizes, maybe leggy, some broad, maybe better for badger hunting, maybe some better for mice, smaller, whatever. And they would have a litter of pups. And they would just call, get rid of all the pups they didn't need because they couldn't afford to feed them all. So they would keep one or two from the litter, raise them up, give them to whatever farmer they could, and then kill the rest, right? So, but they kept the diversity in it. So every time they made a cross, maybe if that time they wanted one for, foxes or whatever, maybe a little more broader, they were still getting the diversity out of it. And to me, that's what the breeds, that's the difference between working breeds and a lot of these, other type breeds, if that makes sense. Because again, it's like a race car. I tell everybody, is it a race car if it can't race? If it has a little Honda engine in it or whatever, and it's a Corvette, is it a Corvette anymore? It's not. Same with Staffordshire Bull Terrier. They can, and again, the word. So it's gotten popular now. I hear so many times people misuse this old school Staffordshire Bull Terrier, or even the Irish Staffordshire Bull Terrier gets twisted to where people think, oh, well, they've added pit bull into it. Well, they don't. The real Irish Staffordshire Bull Terrier came from Ireland. They were Staffordshire Bull Terriers that were worked, selected. The baddest of the baddest were bred. The ones that didn't make the grade were called, and that's how they did it. But again, this whole world we live in now is all about, because of the American bully. Oh, you'll cross and add and cheat. Let's don't do the real hard selection. Let's just try to get ahead by whatever. And so that's a problem. But these old time guys and stuff, man, that was important to them, was to get this diversity in it to where. But now I'm seeing these people that are like, oh, look at the leg on this. It's old school. It's leg, but it won't. It's a cur. It's just no toughness. It's shy. It's skittish. It's not a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. It's what's in here. That's a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. Get me one that's bow-legged, cockeyed, and has the ear standing up. As long as that joker is perfect temperament with my kids and my family, and just tough as nails and no quit in them, and just recovers and all this stuff, man, that's Staffordshire Bull Terrier. So I think, and obviously you've got to have standard structure and all this stuff, but they've lost sight. It's not a tall one. It's not a real broad and wide one, but I tell you, I'll take any of them, that as long as it has the heart, and to me, that's the difference of a race car and a Staffordshire Bull Terrier and all this stuff like that people's forgot. There's really, the standard is the job. And if the dog can do the job, then it fits the standard. And the bloodline's the same, you're not adding in different crap, but that's kind of how I see the Staffordshire Bull Terrier. And again, I do have a preference. I do have a standard that I go by. But at the end of the day, if I got one that's the prettiest thing in the world that fits the standard, but he's a scared shell of a dog and won't catch, or he won't do nothing, he's trying to hurt puppies, or he's whatever it is, then bye. I don't care. I'm keeping the one with the the ear standing up, that maybe he's undershot. They can hold the hog all day for me to get up to get a knife on it. So that's important to me.
Right. And I'm with you, because these older breeds shouldn't be having the problems like newer breeds have. You talk about bullies. I mean, I don't know what was put in there to create. You're going to have health issues.
Yeah.
When you breed them extreme, things like that. So
yeah.
Them guys got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I agree, man. Well, like we talked about the outcross thing, when you out and they're out making that's a real outcross, doing two different breeds, so you're gonna open up, and so it's so funny to me is, what's the one thing everybody, if you want a dog that's superior, right? Everybody adds pit bull. If they want, if you think of the Staffordshire Bull Terrier, if you breed like the pit bull guys do, they don't make excuses. They don't need to add in crap. Schoolboy ain't adding in crap. You know what I'm saying? Like, he ain't adding in bull mastiff or whatever, a Tulsa or anything like that to make American Pit Bull Terrier any tougher. He's selecting. They're just properly selection. That's proper selection. And the Staffordshire Bull Terrier, I feel, is the same. Needs to be just, and any breed should be like that. I'm sick. I'm actually sick of all this crossing crap where people, oh, let's just add it. How about you just properly select? I think it was Fat Bill once said that he could make a game line out of Chihuahuas, and I believe it, man. It's the breeder. If you just have your standards high, and you don't settle, eventually you're going to get it. It's just going to take you a long time. In this day and age, everybody's like, they want a McDonald's. They want it now. They want fast food, man. They want it, and they want their breeding like that. And these old timers weren't like that, man. And even horse breeders and all that. It was just something they were passionate about and done years. And same with me. Like, it's, again, I'm not thinking way ahead. I'm thinking today, right now. I might have a breeding in mind, but if that dog does anything to change my mind, I'm not breeding it, or I'm not using that one, or, so for me, it's different, but that's just my preference, because, again, I'm after the true Staffordshire Bull Terrier. Okay. And I'm not trying to make anybody else happy. I'm trying to make myself happy. And to me, it's like your own kids, if it makes sense. Some people, they don't, maybe they're not a kid person until you have your own, and it's different. And that's the way I look at the Staffordshire Bull Terriers. I'm not, and again, I'm not trying to make profit with it or anything like that either, to where that, I think, can sway breeders to, maybe it's not as healthy, but I need to make $1. So let me, hey, I'll get rid of the whole litter if it's not my standard, or whatever,
I noticed another thing is the culture. And when I say culture, I just mean how people do things. I see a lot of people putting the stud out first.
Yeah.
Hey, they put out, hey, tap in.
It's, you know it, and I get it too. People send me, use my mail, what has it done? And I will be like, some of, he ain't even got health tests on the dog, like, well, what am I? And it ain't done nothing, and it's like, I got a yard full of dogs that, I don't know, but yeah, and I love it, but come on, man. Or, he's a cute pup, he's a good dog, I want a puppy off him. And I've had people, oh, you wouldn't imagine. They want to rent one of my females so they can have a litter of pups. Or, one guy actually, the old school bloodline, and I actually wanted to use it, right? And I was like, because I know the breeder, and he vouched for the litter and everything else. And so I'm like, I'll just take a leap of faith. I want to try it. No health test, no nothing, which is fine, whatever. But the dude said he wanted all the pups except for one. I could have one out of my bitch and use his male, and I'm like, no, man, no. You'll get one pup from me. You can get pick of the litter, but that's it, No, it's fine, whatever. I got my own dogs that are proven that I know. I was just curious and wanting to, help him out too, because he played with me and stuff. But yeah, man, just crazy stuff like that, man. Just what are they on? Why would I do that?
Use my stud 3. How you ever gonna get your program started if they gonna take dogs? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I've had some bad luck, man. I've had where I had no pups or one pup. So you're gonna, you should have just took it, because, and I'm a good guy, like if it was only one pup, I'd probably let them have it. But then you're trying to tell me, oh, you want all of them? Jeez, man, really? No. If anything, you should just do it for free. If you're just some person that has a dog, and this is the way I see it. I just want my dog bred. Just the fact that, hey, if Brian uses it and one makes the cut and he's got it in his program, it's going to live on forever, in his bloodline. And then maybe one day, if I want a pup off of it or down from it, I can hit him up and I can get something from it. Hey, but people get greedy, man. They don't, they don't think. They think, I don't know what they think, but.
Hey, let me say this, Corso breeders, watch out. You buy a dog, and then when you go pick them up, they want some more money for the ears being cropped.
Crazy. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. I'm about to wrap it up with you. I can go on and on. I might have to have you back.
Anytime, man.
Yeah. So what's in the future for you, brother? What's the vision for your program?
And just to kind of keep doing what I'm doing. Just, for me, it's always about bettering, and I'm always after. I've had a lot of good dogs, and that's something to where I have my standards high, and so and I always tell myself, you're only as good as the last litter, and I'm always trying to produce as good or better, and I still feel like there's more I can get more consistency, and I can get just more consistency. That's what I'm trying to go for now. I want to be able, and again, I'm the Lord Almighty is the only one that knows what's going to happen each time. And I'm constantly reminded by it every litter. We think we know, I got it figured out. I don't, so which is, I love it. It's humbling. But
Let me stop you 1 second. 1
Yeah.
second. You said something about consistency. Why is it important to you to breed for consistency?
Yeah, that's a good question, because for me, like, I just need that one pup each time, but I don't know. I think it's just the genetic side of it, the way my mind thinks. Maybe I just want that. I want to be able, and I feel like I've gotten to that point. I really do. I feel like, and again, it may be, and I know it's not, because anything can happen, but at least lately, you can just, you know, just grab any pup and it's going to be a good one. I'm that confident now to where if, I've sent my dogs out before and wanted a pup back from it, or whatever, if I know the dogs, and I'm fine with anything, because I just feel like it's going to click or it's not. And I just feel like any puppy in there is going to be something I want, because like I told you, I've seen 8 generations of them. If it's any dog in the last 8 generations, then I'll gladly take it. And before that, they were even great dogs. So, and that's kind of important to me. Yeah, early on, I got that diversity. I was doing a lot of out crosses and stuff, and I found the type that I liked from the out crosses. I learned a lot from that. The Floyd I was telling you about, his coefficiency was 0.08. Like,
wow.
he was, and again, people are like, oh, the gene pool, you need to add in a different breed or whatever. No, man, if you just, again, you can find blood out there that you can do outcrosses with. And Floyd was tough, man. He was catching hogs. And so I used him to cross with some of my Irish stuff, and kind of found, I handpicked the pups from him that fit everything that I wanted and built off of that. And then line bred, inbred, tightened up, and I've locked that in. But it's just important to me to where, if you come to me, and again, I don't breed for people, but I need, it helps pay for dog food, right? And it helps pay for veterinarians. And my wife, some vacations I can't go on, I'm taking care of dogs and animals and stuff like that. It's people, again, they don't really understand. It's a lifestyle. And I love it. I do it for nothing, but it's cheating, my family and everything else. And I'm not going to keep all the pups. So why not being able to know which one is which, and being able to, I love to help people out, hear their feedback. And when they call me up and say it was a good dog or whatever, or I like to learn from it. But it's just, I don't know. I'm just fascinated about the genetics, and I'm trying to get that exact dog every time.
Right.
It's so easy to lose too. That's what, it's not as easy. If you just had the 2 parents, maybe you could keep going. But again, as a breeder, to me, it's not important to, I see a lot of the guys, again, they call themselves breeder. They have a yard full of beautiful dogs, but they can't breed. They can't reproduce that. They can't create better than that. And to me, that's even more important. I'll take a dog maybe that he has to be a good producer. I've had beautiful dogs that just couldn't produce crap. Or maybe, it was what I'm crossing them with. It might have worked better with somebody else. But again, I'm not going to keep breeding them. They're beautiful. They're perfect. But again, for me, I'm fascinated more about the genetics, and I want to be able to reproduce that. So, I'm passionate about that.
Cool. All right, man. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. If there's any advice you can give new breeders, what would that be?
Just try to learn all you can. And I tell you what, I thought of something the other day. Maybe find a breeder that won't sell you something, and then friend them and see if over time you can learn from them before you start breeding. Because if you find someone that's willing to just sell you something real quick, then maybe you shouldn't get that dog. And that's just kind of, I've had some people do that where I and it's sad I got to do this, but I won't sell people a lot of breeding rights. They're just trying to peddle out my blood, or they don't even want to work it. They just want to, and for me, I have standards. They just want to get a hold of it because they see value in it, and maybe they just want to, just breed. Oh, I just want to breed. I don't problem people breeding, but again, I'm passionate about this. But where I'm going with this is, I've made friends with people like this, and they've continued to speak to me, and I've, asked questions and stuff to where I feel like I've known them enough. And I'm like, yeah, man, all right, I'll sell you one and go from there. And then I know other people that might have reached out to me, and I'm like, I don't think I want to sell full registration right now. And they're gone to the next person that'll sell them full papers, and they buy it, and they call me up, and I'm like, yeah, that dog had the mama, the mother of that, the grandmother was did a bunch of kids and was or health or whatever it is, and it's like, I mean, and now then it goes back to the same thing. Now what are you going to do? Are you going to do what's right, get rid of it? No, they never do. Oh, mine's fine. I have higher standards than that. I don't want it in my blood. I don't.
Right.
I'm not going to play with it. But and then they want to use. Oh, I got this bitch. Can I breed to your milk? I'm not breeding to that, man. I don't. That dog was a bitch was a man biter or something. Like bit some kids and stuff.
You know a lot about the lines, the different lines.
That's I do, and I don't like to talk crap. So I don't. And you'd be surprised. When you're a breeder like me, you hear all the problems. People call me up and say, I got this from Tom, Dick, and Harry, and it has this problem, it's that problem, it's this problem, it's that problem. And again, I'm one of those people, I need to lay hands on the dogs, I need to see it myself. But all these people can't be lying. And so I'm hearing all this crap. And then I hear and I see stuff too. It's like, and again, I don't try to throw shade on nobody. I just stay in my lane and do my thing. But I tell you, some of it I will speak up because there's no room for it. These people, straight out lying to people, or some of them adding pit bull into the line, saying they got old school stuff, that pisses me off because I spent so many years keeping it pure and doing the hard work selection. And they're just think, and they're selling it to some newbie breeder. And then boom, they're ruining bloodlines because they don't know. They were sold a lie or health issues or maybe that their dog don't, but the parents did, and then it's going to pop up and then they're going to get frustrated. And those are the dogs that are getting sold because that guy is going to sell to everybody with full registration. And then that guy's going to sell to everybody with full registration. And that guy's going to sell everybody in full registration. And then before you know it, it's just going to be, it's just going to destroy the bloodlines and stuff. So now recently I finally said, I do need to let some of my blood out because I try to protect it some, but you got to trust some people at the end of the day. I mean, I'm not going to be here forever. So I have one going to England soon. And so I have a friend out there that I've spoke to a lot and is passionate about it as I am. And I'm like, yeah, I need to let some of it out. I can't be sitting here, mad about all this and not being willing to help or do something. So I'm excited about that. A lot of times, and it's American way, everybody thinks you should import. You notice, England and even Ireland, a lot of that stuff's illegal, man. They can't hunt and stuff. Like,
Right, yeah.
the U.S., man, we're still testing them. Like, we're still, I will, pat our dogs on the back here, man. I think my American Staffordshire Bull Terrier line, I say that because they've been in since the 50s and 60s and stuff. And all the men that came before it, they're the reason why it's so bad. And it's time I speak up, man. These dogs are tough. And I'm not taking credit for them, the dogs. I let the dogs speak for themselves. And again, I'm not saying they're the baddest ever. I don't know. But man, I tell you, they should be praised some because these countries, even, these people wanting to import, they don't do nothing with them over there. So how do they even know? You know what I'm saying? I mean, and again, I'm exporting, I'm not importing, but it's the American way. Everybody thinks the grass is greener on their side. I get people, it's so funny, man. They'll just overlook me or say, oh, you're too cheap, or I can get one, I can import one. I had a guy once, I can get one from you, lived a couple hours away. I can get one from you anytime I want. Imported a bunch of dogs from somebody, man. And I keep my mouth shut. Hey, I'm not trying to badmouth nobody. I'm not trying to get your sell. I don't want it. I'm let my dogs speak for themselves. I'm not trying. I'm not no salesperson. I don't give a crap. I'll keep all my dogs, and I'm not going to talk them up.
Right.
So do what you want. But then, then he calls me problems, all this stuff, all this crap, got took into the cleaners, or they sold them this, or, I see it over and over again. And then they want to come to me and breed to me. I don't want my blood crossed with that stuff, man. Because if a problem comes out, they're going to say it's steadfast. They're not going to say it's somebody else, because
Right.
that's the way the world is today. It's messed up.
Right.
You know?
You know what? That's an issue for new breeders, especially in
It
the
really
court.
is.
Yeah, because we don't know the lines like the guys who've been in.
Don't. And you know,
Yeah.
the good guys won't say nothing. Like, or, you know, and the old timers, they're not on Facebook. They're not on it. You know, all the guys I know, man, and they're not bragging about their dogs. And I don't brag about my dogs. Like,
Right.
I'm not posting videos of hunting every single day. I don't give a crap. I actually don't like that, because I don't want you coming because of all that. I just,
Right.
and you know, we talk about this too. Like, I see it a lot. And I'm more the old school, you know. People start asking me for pedigrees. I'll show you. But again, it's kind of an insult to the old timers. You know, it was back then too. Hey, I've been doing it 25 years. You ain't going to tell me if the pedigree's better than what I got. And I don't mean it, you know, and I get it. People are excited. And I like to share my pedigrees. But it's gotten to where it's just pedigree chasers. You know, they just want a pretty pedigree. And that's a problem to me. I want you to take note of a dog and say, dang, that's a bad, tough dog. Let me see its pedigree. That's how I am. You know, why is that dog? I don't want you to say, oh, that's a great pedigree. Let me see the dog. That's different for me. That's, you know, if the dog ain't good, then I don't know. But that's just how I am. But yeah, these new timers, man, like I said, find a breeder that won't sell you something and get to know them, get to learn, and maybe they will later. If they're eager to sell you something real quick, or I got something from this, or yeah, I want one that jumps. Oh, I got that. Oh, wait a minute. I want one that doesn't jump. Oh, I got that too for you, man. This, you know, come on, man. It's so, people are so gullible, and I'm not like that, you know. Or they want, like you said, pick out a pup. I don't do that. I'll tell you if I got something for you, if I don't, you know. I'm not trying to sell you something. I know these people. They'll take, might be the worst puppy in the litter, but the 5 seconds it's looking like a tough guy, they're videoing it and send it to you and say, oh, look at this tough guy, you know, because that's what you said you wanted. And so they're trying to, I mean, it's all smoke and mirrors. I'm not a bull crapper like that. I don't want that. I just try to be straight up front, give you a good dog that I hope will work out. The parents were bad as I mean, they made the grade. I hope the offspring does, you know. So yeah, these breeders out there, they need to know, man, there's a lot of stuff people don't talk about. I don't even want to say, because it'll get crap started, and I just don't want nothing like, you know, I just think about that.
I 100% get it.
Yeah.
Because I don't do that online. I have to go get information offline. I never.
And I'm one too. I'll confront them. I've confronted some before. They know who they are, and I've said, I've called them up and said, hey, I got a problem with this. You know, they know who they are. But again, and I tell them like it is. If I got an issue, sorry, the horses are making noise. But
I'm gonna tell you something too with guys I've seen that might be having a long time in, when they when I call them pedigree pimps. They always I know they don't know the lines. I said, you couldn't have been around these dogs. And then they always lead with the males. This was Kuda Buddha of
So what they like to do with Staffordshire Bull Terriers is, so there used to be a bunch of lines, and I blame the Kennel Club for this. They're all gone. So think of it as the lines of the Staffordshire Bull Terrier, like you know, in America, we take our kids take our last name, right? And then a girl will take their husband's name. So the male descendants carry the name, right? So so the only two that are left is R line and M line. And I get this a lot where people say, I got an M line dog. Well, like 80% of the blood is M line now. Or I'm like, what's your bloodline? And they said, mostly M and R. I'm like, you don't know what the freak you're talking about. That's I hope so, because that's the Staffordshire Bull Terrier, you know. Or they'll just tell me it's M line. I'm like, yeah, 85% is M line. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't know what they're talking about. And that's all another topic.
Yeah, and they never bring up the females or anything. Now, I'm gonna tell you, I tell everybody, anytime somebody sit in front of me, I'm a sponge, and I learn something from them. And you talked a lot about bloodlines, and that stuck out to me. You said something about raw food, and what I took from that is you want people to know what they're doing before they're doing something.
Absolutely.
And by that I mean you said, like, well, if you're gonna feed raw, you need to know exactly how to feed raw, and You need
Well,
to.
and same with like bite work and stuff. And I've learned
Yeah.
that I had a friend that does it, and I'm totally against it in my breed. And then the main thing is just the image it shows. Even
Right.
I get it; it's for he's like it's just going for the sleeve. It's just that for me, it's like I'm old school pit bull type, to where that the fur moms and the people that will try to slander the Staffordshire Bull Terrier. One picture of that, I don't care. And I seen this one guy. It upset me, man. I'll be honest with you. He had Staffordshire Bull Terriers, and he was letting his like 5-year-old or 4-year-old with a sleeve on and letting the puppies hit him and stuff. I don't like that. It's a bad image. And I'm not saying the dog is people aggressive, but I've seen people aggressive staffs before because I've done it long enough. And I'm not going to lie about it. It does come up, and for a while, you just didn't want to say nothing because people were like, oh, well, it's from this. No, it can pop up. You got to get rid of it when you do, be responsible. People hide that. But, and people can say what they want. I guarantee you that Joker would have been great at that kind of stuff because he wanted to bite you. And so where I'm going with that, though, but what my friend taught me, though, is the problem is the people that don't know about protection training. And you got this Joe Blow out there hitting his dog, whatever. We've seen the videos of the idiots out there. And those are the ones that screw it up for everybody. Same with the raw. If you don't, just some kids, I think of it like me as a kid. I probably would have said, I'm going to feed mine raw. And I would have gotten, well, I tell you, I used to, I had, those 2 pits that we got. And I hated this, man. Again, it was a learning way back then. We were feeding it chicken. And again, I'm a dumb kid, right? I didn't know, man. And I remember that one died on a chicken bone. And I'm sure it was cooked or whatever. We were just feeding it any kind of bones. We thought dogs ate bones. We gave it chicken bone. And I never forget, we tried to save that puppy's life. One of those pits, my brother, man, I can still see its face. It just haunts me. Stuff like that. But, you live and learn. And again, you got to know what you're doing. And I know that's totally, but it's not too, again, you got to know, you can't cook it. It got to be raw, and you got to know which ones to give and so on and so forth, and the nutrition side of it. But and it's you got to know. And that's me. That's the difference. It's like that with anything. And same with hunting. And again, you got to train it some too. You can't just take it out in the woods and think it's going to just go find something either. These people, again, I'm not a dog trainer as far as, I'm not fully trained one up for you to take at 8 weeks old and it's going to go do the X, Y, and you got to work with it. You got to, or find a trainer to help you with it. I'm giving you the raw genetics, the part of it, and it's up to you what you're going to do with it. And the same with like raw feed stuff. You need to educate yourself because, and I'm not one, I don't know enough to tell you, maybe like yourself could help somebody out a little bit better. But and again, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Mine are doing great at kibble, and so it's just easier for me and stuff like that.
Right. Am I glitching?
No, you're good.
Okay, it seems like I'm glitching in my screen. So, I'm gonna end this too with bloodline creation. I see a lot of people talking about bloodline creation now, and talking from older breeders, it was way different. The way it was what I hear now, and you hear from a breeder 35 years in, what truly made a family a dog. I don't think people could stomach it.
Yeah, no, they can't. And that's some of the breeders I was fortunate enough to be around them and stuff, and you can't even talk about it,
No, you
And
can't talk about it.
it's just, but you know what? That's life now. You're scared to even, if I had one, I don't know. It's you can't even talk about it.
You can't
If I
talk
had
about
one bite my kids,
Right.
right now, try to, and I took it up to the vet to get it euthanized, I'd have some crap. Somebody would run their mouth saying that, whatever. I'm sorry, man. That's how I mean, you ain't gonna, I don't want it to hurt nobody else either. And this whole world has changed to where, and back to you were talking about generations earlier, I wanted to touch on. See, when I was young, and I don't know about when you too, man, like, we were tough, like, I don't know. I wanted a tough dog, like, man, kids now, the youth, they're more like labradoodle stuff, like they don't want a tough dog. Like they don't want just, I guess maybe because things have changed. People don't have backyards anymore. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
we
that's
piled
true.
around. My dad worked he was a mechanic all of his life, and he worked in the phosphate mines, and they had golf carts. This is way back when, but we're in Florida, so you can imagine they were battery operated. But so he had this beat up one they threw away, and he got working. And as kids, we had this golf cart. We lived off behind the lake. We're in Florida. Lakes were everywhere. So people, oh, you lived off. No, we didn't live off of it, but it was right down the road. And so we were just, redneck family, so my brother and I, we made, made a tie out in the back of this golf cart, and we put our and staff, it was Brutus at the time, in the back of it, and our Cocker Spaniel. We would ride down to the lake and stuff. But I don't know. That's what we took our dogs everywhere, I mean, that's just how it was back then. Where now, I'm finding the people that want and it's hurting myself the more I speak out about my dogs. And my dogs are Staffordshire Bull Terriers. Don't get that twisted either. I think a lot of people think, oh, you're not breeding a Staffordshire Bull. I am. I'm just breeding healthy, functional dogs. The truth of it is the dogs can still walk the walk. Even a good dog should be able to, Staffordshire Bull Terrier. It doesn't mean they're not great family dogs. They are, they're great house dogs. They're great whatever. So, but it's actually attracted more people that want maybe just, I don't know. You have the hunting crowd that kind of, I don't breed hog dogs for that per se, or they're like, you want how much, And then so I'm like, listen, this is more of a novelty breed. I'm doing it to test. I want to know that these dogs can walk the walk. They're tough, whatever. But if you want to just a catch dog or something, go find a Florida cur or something. I don't know, blackmouth cur. But then it's just the kids now, man. They're just not into it. It's more people my age that have always my best people that get dogs from me. They've had pit bulls before, and they've always fantasized about the Staffordshire Bull Terrier. That's where I was. And when I was at the animal hospital, I told you about, one came in, and it was like all over from there. Where did you get this dog? A man in Macon, Georgia, And when my aunt staff passed away, he had the enlarged heart, and he died. That's when we're like looking in the newspaper, looking every Sunday, the classifieds, until we found it. And man, it's been my breed ever since, Yeah, I mean, the kids nowadays, nobody wants a tough dog. Nobody wants, so it's a dying breed, man. And it'll probably die out with me, unfortunately, because just people today, that's not what they're looking for. They're sissies, and they need sissy dogs. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
You know,
you're 100% right. Yeah. Yeah. And I like something you said about the image of the dog. And because one thing about protection work, I was able to learn. That was my first episode because
cool.
I got taught real fast to learn the difference in fake protection work,
right?
Real protection work.
And I've gotten taught that too now.
Somebody can get hurt with that fake shit.
Yes. And that's why I'm like totally, and because I get a lot of people that I'm going to start this, I'm going to begin this, and I'm like, no, I don't got nothing for you, Yeah, you're right. And same thing, if someone comes to you about raw, I want us to, you need to educate yourself. You need to get on these groups and these chats and figure it out. Or you need to go to a club that does this protection work, hang around the guys. You don't do it in your backyard, It's just ridiculous, some of the stuff people do.
That's true. Yeah. My brother, it's been wonderful.
Yeah, Joe, it's been great, man. I appreciate you having me on. And I love your podcast, man. I've been listening to it. I love what you're doing with the breed, getting this content out there and letting people, I don't know, man. You got a lot of good points, a lot of good stuff, and I think it's important for these breeders because, or up and comers or people getting a dog, any of that they just kind of need to see the other side of it, and stuff.
Yeah. And give people perspectives. But I tell you what, it's triggering. I had my phone, I had to kind of like cut back on my phone a little bit because I had something was said last week, and I think I got 20 calls like, hey, dude, I can't help what was said. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that.
It's been a journey. You pick up enemies along the way, but
Yeah, I get that too. I get it, man.
Yeah, because
the older I've gotten, I just got where I don't even care no more. I used to when I was, but there's more good you're doing than than hurting someone's feelings. Well, hey, you're doing something right if you're ruffling feathers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I didn't know it was so easy to do that. You let him say that?
Yeah. Oh no,
Yeah.
yeah. You didn't delete that out. You didn't.
You know, like you said, you was talking about kids don't want tough dogs. Everyone is very sensitive now to
Yeah,
that.
they are. They
It's
are.
stupid, man.
And they can't just be honest with themselves. I'll be the first to tell you my dog's faults, and that's the biggest problem. Someone's going to sell you lies or they're going to hide their faults, and yeah, it's just what it is, man. It's just people. I tell her, hey, you want to start breeding? Don't. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't know if I couldn't have, but and I just came up myself. I knew a lot of good guys, but when I did, like again, kid passed away before I could ask. There was a gentleman, a friend of mine, Nick Tompkins, and his dogs are behind mine. I'm lucky to have him. He helped a lot, but a lot of it was just trial and error. Me and my brother just learning on our own. And I made a lot of friends. Stan Thorne is a good friend of mine too now, and just old school breeder, and they've helped me out a lot when I needed to, and I'm thankful for them. But yeah, but still it's hard. I learned to crash course. I wish, and I keep thinking someone's going to come along that I can help, because maybe my kids, I see a lot of times where the kids just don't seem to follow their dad's footsteps, and I'm not going to make my kids do nothing like that. But I just wish there was somebody I could work with. And every time I think I could find somebody, they end up screwing me over, or they're here today, gone tomorrow. Nobody has. Again, it's like these dogs game. I don't quit. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to do it 110%. And you got to be that way to breed. And there's just people aren't like that no more.
You're right. Yeah. And the mentors are getting far and few, and they're getting older.
And then you got to watch it. The mentors are full of crap. They're trying to sell dogs, and they see other motives. So they're taking these people, because I get it. They're like, that ain't a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. They calling me up, cussing me out. They're sending the little minions to attack me on Facebook. And I'm like, whoa, you come on my page. And then I educate them, and they go, oh, what, and, I bring up how Bull Terrier was in the added in the Kennel Club allowed 25% Bull Terrier in the bloodline at a certain time. About what? Because they're trying to tell me it's supposed to be bully, and the founding fathers wanted it this way. Are you kidding me, dude? Did you see the founding fathers' dogs? You know what they did? I know what they did with their dogs. You have no idea. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Do you know what this breed is bred for? Like, they're just oblivious. And then I like this breed, but I don't like this, and this. So I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to ignore the human. I hate the nanny. I hear this a lot. Some of the show breeders. I hate the nanny dog side of it. And I hear it from a lot of people. I get it, whatever. But because they use it to benefit them, I'm going to ignore it because I have some that aren't so good with kids. Well, I'm sorry. My standards are higher than yours. I don't want nothing that don't like kids. That's just me. Period. Okay. But again, they use it to what they want, and then they, whatever. But yeah, I said if the breed wanted them to look like English bulldogs, they're in England. Why did they outcross a few of them with English Bull Terrier and not English Bulldog? They have no answer for that one. What? They go look their research up, or I send it to them, and they're like, yeah, look at the original standard. It said you could have, full pricked ears. What do you think that was from? Bull Terrier crosses. What? Yeah, people are they don't know the history of and these mentors are pushing them out, these minions, and then they're sending them to attack people. And I see it. They're the dumb ones that are running these Facebook groups now, and it pisses me off because I try to educate them, and they've gotten where they block me and I'm not being rude or disrespectful. I'm not like that. I come off and just try to educate and try to throw fact out there. They'll delete my page, my messages. They'll do whatever. They're smart. They weren't selling dogs for a while. Now they figured out they're going to govern this, Facebook group, and they're going to advertise their puppies, and they're going to limit the breeders they don't like and only keep the breeders in. It's so much politics, dude. It's ridiculous. That's why I'm loving your show and stuff, getting the real world the word out there. You know what I'm saying? They won't dare get on here because they're an idiot. They don't know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? Oh, I got M lines and R lines. Idiot. They don't keep their own dog. I can't stand that either. I'm like, they've been breeding for 15 years, they claim, but they still keep importing to the same dogs over there in England and stuff, and they're sending them the crap, and then their dog's not good enough. They're not even keeping their own dogs. Why don't you just import from the guy they imported from? Because they're getting good dogs, but they just can't produce good dogs. That's a whole other topic.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I will let you go, brother. Hey,
all right, brother.
Blessings to you. We'll talk again.
Yeah.
How do the people find you?
I just recently, I've done some YouTubes, I've had people ask, so I am Steadfast Performance, SBT on YouTube. But the easiest way is I have a website, www.steadfaststaffordshire.com, and that will send you to my Instagram, Steadfast Performance, or my Facebook page, Steadfast Staffords. And I try to post stuff, with that. And it's easy to reach me, Messenger or instant message or something like that from there. Probably the best way. I do have a couple litters right now. I'm being selective. I want to keep some stuff from it. My dogs are getting older. Some of the breedings I did. So I'm going to retire, maybe one or two from, I don't know if it'll be the last litter, but I do have some really nice pups. A couple I want to get in the right hands, or, maybe I don't know if I want to have full registration. It'd have to be the right person or something. But either way, it's be some good dogs, good workers, good sporting dogs, good Staffordshire Bull Terriers, man. Just great dogs and a good opportunity for somebody if anybody's interested. But again, I get a lot of tired kickers, and I get a lot of, I don't know, or people just don't know that they don't need to have them. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah,
the wrong reason.
If y'all see him, if y'all call him and talk to him about the puppies, Don't be a tire kicker. Just give him the NWA code to get a 10% discount.
There you go. All right.
All right, brother, man. I appreciate you, man.
All right, man. Have a good night.
Okay, brother.
And that wraps up another episode of NWA Cane Corsos. Thank you for being a part of our Cane Corso community. Remember, you can stay connected with us beyond the podcast. Find us on all major media platforms by searching for NWA Cane Corsos. Whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube. Just hit that follow button to join the conversation and get the latest updates. If you have a burning question or want to apply to be a guest on our show, we'd love to hear from you. Simply shoot us an email at nwacanecorsos@gmail.com. And if you're a business interested in becoming a sponsor, reach out to us at the same email address. For more resources, exclusive content, and links to all our social media profiles, visit our website at nwacanecorsos.com. It's your go-to destination for everything dogs. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we can't wait to bring you more exciting episodes where we explore the fascinating world of dogs.